You are watching Mental Health Mondays with my host, Chuck Bastie, obviously with the Fired Up Network. We are really excited. Jordan's in the house. He's taking care of the production for Gooch Live Productions. Chuck, it's election day. It's election day. What's going on out there?
Well, I think I'm up against a sea of blue. Am I riding in Cardin and Grey Bruce, Huron County?
Yeah.
But I'm really curious. Like, as soon as the podcast is over tonight, I want to encourage all my fellow Canadians to get out there and vote if you haven't voted already. Exercise your right to the franchise. But I'm curious to think what your prediction is does Trudeau stay or go?
Well, listen, it's a sea of orange out here in Victoria, mostly in Vancouver. I cannot believe how much orange I've seen out here. A little bit of red, a little bit more blue. So I think it's going to be nip and I think it's going right down. It's a two-horse race. I think all others are just going to help one or the other win it. I voted in the advanced polls, just as Robert Wine is coming up and saying he did too. I got to tell you, I'm mixed emotions. I won't tell you who I voted for, Trudeau. And listen,
Well played.
I'm the only, and I'll tell you right now, I'm not really a political dude. I voted for Trudeau back in when the father was there. I don't even know if I could vote when my dad did. I just think right now he made a bad move by calling the election, no question. Then, spending $600 million. What I'm concerned about is if we change parties to run the country, it's another $600 million to change all the stuff that's going on. So that's my only concern. I don't think we have another $600 million. To spend $600 million more, just give it to us, Chuck. We need to live.
Yeah.
So no political orientation. I'm just thinking, let this go away quickly. And I think, unfortunately, it's going to be a rough vote, regardless of who's in or out. And good luck. Hey, I'm surprised anybody wants the leadership right now with this mess out there.
Here's the one thing I want to say, and I want to say this as a Canadian, not as any affiliate party. But if you're a Canadian and you're satisfied with the amount of leadership we're seeing from all parties, with the exception of maybe the Green Party, I'm not happy with any single candidate, representing any party that they represent, even the ones that I like. So I think, if we could merge together as Canadians and really find better leaders and not politicians who lead, I think that would serve us, the people, way better than just regurgitating the same old crap that I have to vote for a guy who I like less rather than a guy who I'm really excited to vote for. And that's what I'll leave it at that for.
That's a really good point. Now that you think of it, when you put it that way. Hey, listen,
I'm so tired of all the division. I mean, just be honest about the guy that you like and be objective about the person that you voted for. Like with Trudeau, I would like to see more liberals be more upset that he's violated more ethics violations in the last 4 years. Because if that was a conservative, all the liberals would have been up in arms, and it's hypocritical to not call out that leader just because he wears your color or they wear your color.
We could have some fun because I'd love to throw some daggers just for the heck of it, but I'm too tired to do it. Listen, here's what my thoughts are as we end the conversation on politics. It's your right to vote. People died for you to vote. So regardless what your orientation is, please vote. Regardless of who wins or loses, we have to stand with that party and move forward. The haters are haters. We can't change that. Yes, there are politicians that have done things in the past wrong. Yes, Trudeau's made a bunch of mistakes, but just look around the world. Politics are for politics. Leave it there. Somebody take over this mess, clean it up so we can actually get back on living. Hey, listen, I'll tell you what, I think I may have found, if you give me a few minutes, I may have found the next, who I would vote for the Prime Minister of Canada. Give me a few seconds because I'm just waiting for my computer to kick in and then we can actually talk about it. So let's talk about the show today. I'm only on for a few minutes because, as we all know, I'm out here in Victoria, and I know you wanted to talk a little bit about your experience on flying.
Well, yeah, because it's funny because you're in BC this week. I was in BC last week, and I flew with Flair. Um, probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had in flying. And I've been flying my entire life. I think only when I was with when my dad was with the armed forces, we'd fly in those C-130 Hercules, and those were the worst flying conditions you could ever have. Flair was a close second. But I mean, just here's the one thing I'll say: like in all air travel, and you just went out there, all air travel, you're going to have delays. You're going to have people that lose your luggage. You're going to have misconnections. You're going to have a whole host of like shitty people on that plane. The difference between a great airline and a poor airline is the training of the people who handle difficult people in stressful situations.
Yeah.
I love WestJet for this because they're employees, they recruit really well. Their employees get it. They're part of the buy-in of ownership. But it's a stressful time right now. It's a pandemic. Right now we're just starting out with the vaccine passports and rolling them out. And there's a whole lot of uncertainty. There's a whole lot of bitterness and anger and resentment that goes along with this on both sides of the aisle. And it's really stressful to fly at best of times. And then you add something like this. And my experience was pretty bad. I'm curious to yours.
Well, I'll tell you what, Winnipeg a month ago was a disaster. About 3 weeks ago, went to a golf tournament for a celebrity golf tournament, a reunion, and somebody, Air Canada, who I am a super elite member, lost my bag from Winnipeg to Toronto to Winnipeg. How does that happen? So it was a disaster. Airport's full, just nothing went right. But I'll tell you what, this trip to Vancouver has been nothing but miraculous. The staff was unbelievable to me. The At the airport, it was much more organized. My bags showed up on time. My buddy Malcolm, who's with us, who we're doing a bunch of great promotions and work for Stop Concussion, Shoot for a Cure, and of course our Safe for Sports platform, had a great experience. We flew from Vancouver to Victoria, not just the airline, but it was really cool to go on the ferry and then get on the
Yeah.
train and get that was I had a lot of fun. And it's been kind of mixed emotion as far as the weather goes. So Chuck, I got to say, up until right this moment, my experience in Winnipeg was a nightmare. My experience out here so far has been truly remarkable. So, yeah, I think it's the luck of the Irish. Hey, you got curly hair.
Oh, do I? Oh, that's so weird that you mentioned that.
Yeah,
I never noticed. Like, no one's ever told me that before. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Hey, listen, before I go, I want to say this to you. Uh, our producer and I have made a $50 bet with Derek Luck. Lucky had we had talked about the fact that Carter Hart may be on the Olympic squad on the roster, maybe a third goaltender, and
Yeah.
but it really depends on how he does at the start of the season because he's under a lot of pressure, but he's also knowing that he's young and he's got an opportunity maybe to make not only help Philadelphia turn their season around and have a solid year. We know you would like that, but then again, he knows what could happen if he does start off with a solid season. He could go to the Olympics. So Jordan and I have bet Lucky $50 that Carter Hart will be at minimally the third goalie on the Canadian Olympic team. Are you with us or without us?
No, I think it's a great prediction because like, it does one of two things. He's not going to get any games. He might dress for a game as a backup rather than watching it from the press box or the media box. But what it does do is actually grooms him as the future goalie for 4 more years down the road.
Good point.
And it gets him involved in the program. It shows Hockey Canada is already grooming them. They see the potential in Carter Hart. And that's one thing, as you know, goalies need is, you got to keep giving them the confidence, got to keep giving them the ball, keep going back to them. Carter Hart, you're going to see a different Carter Hart this year. I'm going to say this right now. So Lucky, if you're listening, hopefully you got my back on this one as well. But the defense that Philadelphia has brought in this year, Chuck Fletcher went out and got two great defensive pairings to go along with our. We moved out Gossespierre as well, but at the same time, you're going to see a much more stable blue line in Philadelphia this year, and that's going to go worlds to help out her heart.
Well, Ryan Ellis and Rasmus Ristolainen, not bad. I
Not bad.
like, and then
And
again,
I like Provorov.
Gossenberg, Gossenberg for literally nothing. So thank you
Actually,
for.
I think they paid to trade him. I think they sent a bag of pucks with him as well. I think.
He's not that bad of a guy. Hey, listen, Chuck, I'm going to let you go, but I want to say this. I wish you well with the show this year. I know you've done a great job last year. Obviously, COVID, there's been a lot of transition for all of us, but I'll tell you what, really excited about what's going to go on with Mental Health Mondays. I do want to do a shout out to Jordan. Not only has he been fantastic helping produce the shows, but also just keeping us ahead of ourselves and keeping me kind of grounded. And of course, being on with the Fired Up Network, we're really going to get that working this new season with Gooch Live Productions. So, Chuck, have a great show. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of days. Don't forget, October the 2nd, you know what's going on? Oktoberfest. Make sure you get your lederhosen and your dundle and bring a couple of beers to Bottom Line. We're going to have a heck of a time. It's going to be from 2 to 6, and I look forward to having those golden locks in a dundle. I mean, in a pair of lederhosen.
Yeah, so I can specken Sie Deutsch.
Yeah, you got it. Auf Wiedersehen.
Choose.
Hey, hang on. I didn't show you. Here's my
No.
next time around. There's my vote for the Prime Minister of Canada. Look at those shoulder pads. That's Norm Bowden.
Like duct tape.
Well, somebody said he either needs a new pair of shoulder pads or somebody's got to buy him a roll of duct tape.
Wow. And you still have that classic Jofa bucket too. Like I love that
Yeah.
bucket. Like just
All right.
timeless.
Okay, buddy. And the tooth missing. See you, kid. Have a good show.
Okay. See you, Gooch. So we're going to keep this one a little, short this Mental Health Monday as well. I want to welcome you back. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been on air, but I do have some really exciting news to share with you as well. So I thought we'd just start off with our partnership with the CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association. So I'm really excited to work with some initiatives and create some alliances with the CMHA this year as well. One of the things that we're going to be working on is with Dr. Gabor Mate. So we're going to be setting up a time to have Dr. Mate on the podcast. If you've missed Dr. Mate, his life work has been around trauma and addiction inside of mental health. And if you look at him online, his content is very extensive. And recently he was profiled in the movie The Wisdom of Trauma. And we are going to try and speak with the producers of this movie, Maurizio and Zaya. But less than that, we're going to have Dr. Mate on the show in conjunction with a fundraising opportunity that a portion of the sales that we are going to generate for that will be delivered back to the CMHA. So we will be able to help CMHA during a pandemic cause. And then really create some good awareness for people out there inside of the trauma movie. Because as we all know, trauma is the root cause analysis of where addiction and mental health come from. And we're really excited about premiering Dr. Mate on the show. It's been 6 months coming. I still don't understand why he's on the show or why he's agreed to come on the show, but I'm overjoyed that they'd offered us the opportunity to create a revenue stream for the CMHA based on that podcast as well. So I'm going to ask for your help on this one to share that podcast and then be able to create a much bigger reach, simply because I think, number one, people now need the information during the 18th month of the pandemic that we're in right now. And then and number two, it's going to create an amazing opportunity for CMHA to use that as some content and also double end in the revenue streams as well, moving forward as well. One quick little story. So we did a ball hockey tournament just south of North Bay at the Bill Barber complex in Callender, Ontario, a couple weeks ago. Doing a screening for Josh Pyro and Mandy Gosling's upcoming movie called The Prospect. And we were featured on CTV Evening News, and they did a wonderful article about the movie screening, as well as our work with mental health with the kids that day at the Bill Barber complex. And I was overjoyed to actually put my picture in the paper, which I thought was kind of nice. But it was just a wonderful ability to connect with people and just see where they're at, and then host some young kids and being able to talk about mental health and mental health awareness and being seen, because I think during this, this time during the pandemic, one of the things I'm getting for a lot of people is that they're just not feeling seen. They're flying under the radar. There's so many things that's going on in everybody's life these days, whether it be work or relationships or financial stress or mental health. All these things are big cogs in the wheel. And the people who are lesser extroverted and probably on a good day would probably fly under the radar now are really being missed. And so it's important for us to check in with these people. Our good friend Pete Bombachi from Wellness Wednesday will always say, pick up the phone and connect with 5 people, and throughout the week, and what a difference it's going to make, not only for you, but you'll never know the difference it's going to make for other people as well. Just to say, hey, listen, I wanted to pick up the phone and just see how you're doing. And people say, well, I don't have time for that. I'm like, well, my response to that is make time for that. Just like if they always say, I don't have time for stillness. I don't have time for yoga. I don't have time for meditation. I don't have time for mindfulness. And it's just like, well, if your mind's racing like that, then, need to make time for that, because it's going to create more energy versus causing reactions that you're going to be able to carry as well. So create that ability to reach out to people and see how they're doing and check in with them and just see where they're at and let them know that you're thinking about them, because that goes a really long way. So that's the CMHA. So we're really happy about that. And one of the things we're starting right now is with our new sponsorship program. So we just have created a couple new alliances as well. One of them is Holy Chuck Burger, our friend Johnny over at Holy Chuck Burger in Toronto. I love the name because obviously Holy Chuck, like covers all matters of sins. But the branding of that, what we're going to be able to do is endless. And I love the burger, and I love Johnny's brand. He also has created a burger that is named after one of his late friends who took his own life from suicide. And he's now taking proceeds from that burger and donating it back to the CMHA. So good on you, Johnny, that you're doing that as well. And that aligns our platform. So we're going to have Johnny on probably next week and just introduce him to our Mental Health Monday as a proud sponsor and as an advocate for mental health. And as well, our good friends at Mark Anthony Hair Products decided to send me a couple boxes of hair products while I was away in Vancouver last week. And I showed up at my door, and there was a big carton of hair products. So we're going to be doing giveaways and prize packages and guest packages, courtesy of Mark Anthony Hair Products here in Canada. They're around in every Shoppers Drug Mart, Rexall, any place, Rite Aid that you want to go as well. Just look in the hair product aisle, and they probably have 3/4 of it here in Canada. So, and they actually have kick-ass products. I'm really a big fan of the curls that they give me. They do not give me curls, but they actually help manage the curls, which is important. So those are a couple of the partnerships that we're working on as well. And I'd also like to say, if you're looking to align with Mental Health Monday as well, if you want to drop me a line and ask me how we can align our platform with your product or service, I'd be more than willing to have a conversation with you about that and see if there's a fit for both of us together, and be able to create some content for you as a business and align that with your message if mental health is one of those things that your company also looks highly upon. So I'm going to try and keep this a little short tonight as well. It is election night, so hopefully everybody got out there and, just like Carrie and I were talking about, and you've exercised your right to the franchise and voted as well. My prediction tonight is that Trudeau hangs on to minority governments. I'd like to see, like I said before, that we're going to be able to create new leaders and different, um, I guess, more enlightened, empowered, less toxic leaders than what we have. And this is not aimed at any one given party. It's aimed at almost all of them. And I said almost all of them because I haven't done so much research on the PPC and the Green Party, which seems to be checking out okay. But definitely the Liberals and definitely the Conservatives. It's just like we're regurgitating old leadership that's just tired. And for whatever reason, we just need to keep electing these people, and not having alignments with other leaders as well. I mean, I owned a recruiting firm for 25 years. And if I work with the Fortune 500 companies that I work with and the Fortune 100 companies that I work with, and I ever presented candidates who are so poor in leadership as what we have in Canada for leaders, I would be out of my ass and they would never deal with me ever again. So for that point, I don't want to beleaguer. I'm not for one party or not for another party. I'm for better leadership. And because here's the one thing is we as people, as Canadians, like you're going to see a big swing in mental health this year. The leadership that we need to have in Canada needs to recognize and acknowledge the fact that mental health awareness is our number one priority. It is a number one priority on a human standpoint. It is a number one priority on a business standpoint, because without good mental health, and you see all the socialist countries around the world like Norway, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, to a lesser point, the UK, Holland. These are countries that actually have bought into good mental health with substantial vacation time, being able to create that social umbrella system, which is going to make a happy worker a good worker. And again, me working in the recruiting industry, when it came down to talent, that's where you actually want to be able to create that talent is from your human resources. And so we need to really put a lot of emphasis on our leadership on creating good mental health awareness out there and creating programs and getting people help and education and being able to provide mindfulness and whatever way that they need it inside of therapy. Because therapy mental health should not cost you money. We're all traumatized as human beings, but if you have poor mental health in Canada, it should not cost you money. It shouldn't cost you money on medication. It shouldn't cost you money on therapy. And yet we're so behind inside of therapy lines in medication, even though we're socially subsidized. It's still not where it needs to be. And after this pandemic here, we were talking about this 5 years ago about mental health and addiction, and nobody wanted to talk about that back then. And now the pandemic has put that right to the forefront. And now everybody really sees and understands and probably agrees with the fact that we need to have more resources in mental health awareness. So if it comes down to a CMHA or it comes down to a CAMH or somewhere that your local chapter is, please check in with them. Please dial them up. If you need a diagnosis, please go get your diagnosis. Go to a doctor, a family doctor, or to your GP, find a specialist, invest in that time in yourself so that way you can go get 100% of the resources that you have allotted to you as a Canadian citizen to live a happy life. It's just that simple. Nobody should suffer out there because they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the money, they don't have the wherewithal. This should be something that our country invests in. So on election day, that's my one point I wanted to create, is we need to be on our MPs and our MPPs inside of our ridings, to really bring to the forefront, what are you doing for mental health awareness? How are we aligning? What kind of programs are we creating? What's the infrastructure look like? What's our budget that we have? I know every single CMHA branch that I deal with here in Ontario is stretched really thin on budgets because all their fundraisers they haven't been able to do privately has really cost them inside of what it's been able to give them for reach or for care or for long lineups or shorter lineups. So money does matter when it comes to those resources. And when you invest in the right people, like you will get the right investment back. And thank you, Dave Carlson, for saying stress and anxiety is off the charts right now, because it really is. And if the people out there who don't have that stress and anxiety in their life, please, for the love of God, spread some of that love. If you're one of the few people out there who is not stressed and anxiety ridden, please do your best to be able to create some energy for people, or reach out or check in or volunteer or go down to your chapter of CMHA and actually reach out to them and say, hey, how can I spend 5 hours this week volunteering with people, sitting with elderly people, playing cards or something like that, and making a difference for people out there right now. Like, this is a time right now where you're going to see us either go this way or us go that way as a society, of where our tipping point of connection is going to be. And I'd rather be on the positive side of that. I think being born in Canada, we've won the lottery of birthrights. I've been to, today is the first day of summer. So 2018, before the pandemic hit, I was lucky enough to actually travel to 26 countries that year. And in each and every single one of those countries, minus one or two, I was able to go to a jail, a police station, some sort of federal penitentiary or facility for each country, just to check in and see what the living conditions were, what their social programs were, what their rehabilitation processes were all about, what their prognosis is for punishment versus rehabbing, their educational platforms inside. And I think, as broken as our system here is in Canada, and I've experienced this, it's still top 10 in the world. And, I've been to the prison systems here. I've spoken at galas here for prison systems. I've actually volunteered for prison systems. I've been in them and just talked to the guards and the inmates as well. And it is a horrible place, not surprisingly. But most of these people that are in there are not criminals. I'd say maybe 20-25% of people are criminals that are pathological, that are destructive, that are hateful, that are damaged people. But 80% of the people, 75% of the people in there are mentally ill. And there's mental illness through trauma, through addiction, that people are just making these poor decisions. And all we're doing is just regurgitating them out into the system again through the courts, and then mandating them having to do their time, having to waste their time inside that prison system, and then kick them out, 2 years and less a day out afterwards. And from that point there, they're back in society making the same exact poor choices. And until we actually get the fact that we need to heal these people or help these people be healed, we will never be a functioning society that's worth what we claim Canada really is. And again, I'm a proud Canadian. I've got 3 Maple Leaf tattoos, Canadian Maple Leafs, not the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tattoos on my body as well. My dad's been in the armed forces. Both my grandfathers served in the forces as well. I'm a product of that. I'm a very proud Canadian. However, we can do better. That's what I'm saying here. And that leadership needs to start kicking in inside of mental health and awareness, because we're one of the few countries that have the ability to have the resources to bring to bear of what we could do as well. So I'm interested in any of your comments or your questions as well. I see that there's a couple here on the side. Jordan, if we can just bring up a couple random questions, I'll just, rhyme them all off. Darren says, love that priority. Australia is heading down a dark path, and we have 6 vets a week suicide here, and it's sad to have this now, let alone where we head in the future. Darren, I agree with you 100%. And, I have a real soft spot for vets. Obviously, my dad being in the forces and me being a base brat, people who serve their country, to me, have another level of patriotism that I just will never know. I never served my country on an armed forces level, but it's not that I haven't always been around that my entire life. Remembrance Day is my most cherished, hallowed day. When I was over in France, in Belgium, I visited every single one of the Canadian cemeteries that I could, around Ypres, around Passchendaele, around Vimy Ridge, the whole Siegfried line. I've been to Normandy, and Juno Beach, and Dieppe, all these beaches that are hallowed ground for us as Canadians. But you're right. When you have a vet that takes their own life because of the trauma that they've incurred serving their country, and the lack of help and the lack of support that we as a country afford these patriots that have served their country so proudly, it breaks my heart and it makes me sick. So it's a really dark path to go down, but we need to do better. And I don't mind saying that as a Canadian, that although I love my country, I'm ashamed of my government. I'm pretty okay to say that right now. So any more private chats that we have going on, or just comments? I hear you, brother. I have a youth camp for 4 days with abused and troubled kids this weekend, and you're right on it. But yes, they fly under the radar, and that's where their headspace is closed in. Yeah, and again, like I feel for these people as well, just because they have a bigger capacity to serve their country and to project freedom for people who can't fight for themselves. I always say vets and addicts are two of the most treasured people that have the biggest capacity to love. And I think addicts are just such creative, wonderful, emotionally charged people that have just been damaged and hurt, and then have chosen to escape that pain by using. And then we lose them, and we lose their gifts, and we lose their creativity, and we lose their love, and we lose their leadership, and we lose their mentorship, and their guiding light. And when we can get to the point where we can actually help these guys get to where they would be in a productive, functioning mode as a human being. Because, I mean, that's ideally where you would like to see people do their best work. And I mean, I do all my best work when I'm loved, when I'm heard, when I'm understood, when I'm fed, when I've slept, 8-10 hours a day. I do all my worst work when I'm none of those things. And, when it comes down to being in a survival mode and being in defensive capabilities, that's when things are going to turn into really poor decisions. And when it comes down to it, we have to be responsible for those decisions, obviously, but those aren't decisions people choose to make. And I think most people that drives me absolutely batty is when I hear people say addiction is a choice. Well, I chose to do that. I'm like, so that's just not true, because you can't convince me that anybody wants to be a deadbeat dad, or anybody wants to be a terrible son or daughter, or a horrible mother or father, or deadbeat anybody in life, or unemployed, or homeless. Nobody would choose that lifestyle. It's not something anybody would ever choose. This is a control over your body that is so overpowering that it creates that decision making as a knee-jerk reaction. Like when you go to the doctor and he hits your knee with that little mallet and say, okay, don't react. Yeah, let's see how that works out. And that's what addiction is. Addiction is exactly like that. Saying to a person, don't abuse or don't use, it's just like saying, when the doctor hits your knee with the mallet, don't react. It's impossible. Your body just knee jerks. And that's exactly what happens. So I think we've gone through as many comments as we have as well. So I think from that point there, I want to thank the Australians as well for always being on the show. Mark Simon, Aaron Cusack, Darren as well, that was on here, our super fan, Robert Wine, Rob Frid. Funny story about Rob Frid. I was flying out of Toronto last week, and I was walking through the park, visiting a buddy of mine at the Soho Hotel, and he saw my mullet of curls, and he sent me a message on Facebook. And we're still yet to have that beer, Rob, or that adult beverage of choice. But next time I'm in the city, I'll give you a shout. We'll hook up as well. I'd love to spend some time with you as well. So so that's where I want to kind of keep it to a short show tonight. Next week, we're going to roll out our fall schedule. So I'm really excited about the next 4 guests coming up on the show. We'll create some Facebook updates a week in advance and be able to promote this. And our sponsors are really excited about the alignment that we have as well. Looking forward to doing some giveaways as well for the first time, ever. And getting some hair products out to people as well. Looking to really to do some good work with the GTHL, the Greater Toronto Hockey League. They're starting their season as well. The NHL is going to be back up and around in the next month, where we can actually watch hockey games, hopefully in person. and media like me can be able to get our interviews without having to, wear a hazmat suit. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And we're going to be creating our Men Don't Get It podcast, which I've got 10 guests lined up right now that are spectacular. So we're really looking forward to that as well. So I'm just going to bring up Jordan right now because I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks.
Hey, Chuck, how are you?
Let's check in with Jordan's mental health and see how he's doing. There he is. There's our big guy. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. The pandemic been really tough for me and my family, but the last few weeks, being able to see my dad now too, it just kind of made the last 2 years kind of worth it, if you will.
Yeah. And I think that this is going to be a time where we're going to really, really look back at as pre-COVID and post-COVID. And, just like what I would say pre-9/11 and post-9/11, I mean, pre-9/11, I never had a passport that I ever traveled with, to the United States. You could get on a plane to the States with a Sears credit card. And we just had the 20th year anniversary of 9/11 a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I remember exactly where I was. I was driving through Vail, Colorado when the second plane hit the towers. And it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Time at the time, or 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was driving to California. And when I had to fly back to Canada, they asked me for my passport. And I had a driver's license and a credit card. And, like that changed everything. And then you had the shoe bomber that came out. And all the flight things that we go through now, which are just now normal, are now the new norm. Whereas before we were like, oh yeah, I forgot. I used to be able to cross the border, on foot with, nothing. Just like, you Canadian? Yeah, off you go. Canadian, off, yeah, off you go. Here you go. And now that's never going to come back. And I think this is where COVID has been leading us right now into the new normal. And this is our new home.
Yeah, and we're kind of talking about it with my dad right now. Like we were kind of talking about like our life pre-COVID and how it kind of differed. So for us, we have 4 members of my immediate family, and we're all in 4 different countries through the whole pandemic. And then on top of that, like the world as we know it's going to be really different. We're going to be hearing a lot of stories come out over the next few years of all these horror stories during the pandemic. People being split up and people just losing a lot of loved ones. And we kind of relate it back to like a World War I or World War II, where countries were shut down, people were dying, hundreds of thousands of people were dying. It's just a really tough time.
Yeah. And I'm really hoping that after the election tonight, whoever wins, that we actually can get our populace behind our MPs and our MPPs and be able to really bring the narrative to our elected officials of saying, hey, listen, so now that you're in, what are your plans for mental health advocacy?
Yeah.
What can we do? What's possible? How can we start the ball rolling right now so that we can create better mental health as an institution systemically versus creating the reaction to the mental health. And I'm going to throw this out as well, but when it comes to the police, I'm not really a big fan of the police, even in Canada. But I will say that there is a difference between a police making a call for a person who is a deranged, psychopathic, destructive, evil person and a person who's mentally ill. And in a split second, you can't make that determination at all. That's how mental health can really derail anybody's career or life. And there needs to be more help for our police. So that way there's mental health advocacies making calls about instead of crime calls or being able to arrest people or be able to get the people the help that they need because they're mentally ill, not because they're criminals. And I think that's a big distinction that we need to create. Like I said, we've got a lot of work to do, but at the same time, we need to start furthering the conversation.
Yeah, and again, with this pandemic, a lot of issues have come up with our current prime minister. But again, I think as a nation, we just gotta stay together and trying to get through this dark spell all together. And but calling an election in the midst of all this kind of just divides us a little more, right? So
Yeah.
I think we just gotta band together and just get through this.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to throw this out there as well. Like normally, everyone, it's not a big surprise that I'm a left of center guy. I'm much more for social programs, for infrastructure, for helping our fellow man, creating that platform for people to be happy, and a happy worker is a good worker. Like there's a systemic host of evidence of being able to invest in people, in the right people, and then watch your investment triple, quadruple, quintuple, because of that. And that's a fact. When it comes down to giving them the resources for this, whatever leader that we have moving forward, I would like to see more people calling out our leaders and not supporting them just because they're the party that they support. They're human beings. They're going to make mistakes. No one's going to do their job 100%. I don't do my job 100% of the time. When I had bad days, I lost $20,000-$30,000 in deals in one day. That was a bad day. And that's because I didn't do something that was proactive for that deal that cost me and my company money. The prime minister does that times 1,000. They're not going to be perfect. They're flawed people. We can't expect them to be perfect. But what we can do is we expect them to have much more secondary and tertiary programs in place for redundancy to be able to create that pattern, so that way whatever needs to get done for the people gets exercised, as opposed to the greed and the corruption that seems to dominate every single administration since the beginning of time, and then us just ignoring that because that's our more aligned leader. And I'd like to see more people calling out their own leaders that they support and keeping them accountable rather than turning a blind eye. That drives me absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah, it might not be the best analogy, but I've always just kind of looked at the prime minister as kind of a goalie in hockey, where a goalie makes a mistake, it's on the scoreboard, and everyone can see it, right? And if his support team makes that mistake, it might not be as highlighted as much. And you have to realize that at the end of the day, these are people like you and me, Chuck. So no one's perfect. We kind of just have to make do, I guess. It's not the best option, but at this point of time, we don't have much else right now.
No. So, well said, Jordan. We're going to tie that up right there. I know it's a little early tonight, but like I said, if you haven't been out there to go vote, please go out there and vote in the Western provinces as well. I don't know if the election's probably already over because Ontario and Quebec's already voted. So it makes, your 120 seats in Western Canada kind of a moot point. At least, you can pick up much more minority or majority government with your conservative views out in the West Side versus us libtards here on the Ontario. I said that for you, Dave Carlson, as well, because I know you don't want to use that word, but I thought we can be funny about this, right? It doesn't have to be always serious.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to call me a libtard, I've got lots of hockey players of mine that say, "Oh, you're lefty," or "You're pinko," or whatever Don Cherry calls me. But again, we don't have to be significant about it as well. I don't care who you vote; just get out there and vote. Exercise your right to the franchise. Have some ownership of what your difference is in your riding. I voted here; it's not going to make a difference in my riding at all. So it's going to be able to have very little impact of who I would want to win. But I did it anyway, so it's habit building, I guess, is what it is. So.
Yeah, you feel a little accomplishment yourself, like I did it.
Yeah. So that's it for Mental Health Monday this week. I will see you back next week. Looking forward to really launching our show in the fall with our new sponsors and our new alignments and the CMHA, and looking forward to creating a whole new brand of content this fall. It's my favorite season. The colors are out. Thanksgiving is coming up. We'll have a brand new government as well, hopefully. And hockey season. Thank God. I think, come the fall, I could spend 40, 45 hours as a full-time job in sports. I've got college football on Saturdays. I've got NFL on Sundays. start of hockey again. There's this thing called basketball that some people watch. And that kind of kicks off right after NHL sometime that nobody really cares about because it's basketball. Yeah. But again, and then there's the Fall Classic, and the baseball, thank God, that we can just watch the slowest sport in the world die. And if you're a footy fan, again, there you go. You got another, and CFL football finishes up as well. So there's a ton of stuff here. I'm looking for a new BFF. Hopefully you like the Dallas Cowboys.
No.
If you're going to be an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, that's going to be better. I kind of align with the Philadelphia Flyers in hockey, but if you want to be able to send me some resumes, I like nachos and wings on game day. If you can cook and do all that, and we can just sit there and grunt on the couch together and just like not gay it up and make it feel like light and funny, I'm okay with that. So I'm looking for my new BFF. So if you want to apply, by all means, send me a resume or drop me a line. Dave Carlson, you're too far away. We can't do this. I'd like to give you a shot, but you're in Alberta and I'm in Ontario. It's just not going to work. We're geographically challenged, my friend, so it can't happen. So maybe Rob Frid, if you play your cards right, maybe you and I can get together and bromance it out. Watch our sports teams for the next 40 hours a week in the next 3-4 months, and then bring in the winter.
Yeah, no, I'm just excited for sports to be back. It's no longer than the original pandemic. I finally in the business. So
yeah, right. So okay, so that's it for Mental Health Mondays. We will see you same time, same bat channel next week, same bat time, 7:00 Eastern Standard Time, and I will announce our guests when we have that aligned tomorrow. And we will see you on Mental Health Monday next week. And as always, be safe out there. And if you have any problems or questions or comments, please feel free to direct message me or drop them in the box here. And until then, we'll see you next week.